No, I realized that I've been on mute this whole time. Yeah, so we're working on oceans today. Just trying to get our height map working to start, like ignoring any kind of translucency or like material stuff beyond just getting our displacement for waves working. Because once we can get our displacement pattern for the waves, that's the hardest thing. Everything else is just material work and poking at it. Well, that's not entirely true. We have to create a copy of our planet that doesn't get affected by noise. So that's what I was trying to do a second ago when it crashed. The planet doesn't like being copied while it's active. So let's try this. Well, maybe if I add it fresh. So basically, we're going to need a subdivision surface for the ocean as well. I wonder if I could use the nanite tessellation stuff for that. Might actually be able to. Hmm. UE5.4 nanite tessellation.
Hello and welcome. So, Unreal Engine 5.4 preview is out, and naturally, Epic Games developers the world again by enabling the real-time nanite tessellation and displacement that is enabled by that technology. And as you can see, we can now tessellate and displace any arbitrary geometry in any asset that we want. And as a bonus, it doesn't only displace the geometry that we see, it gets the benefit of self-shadowing. As you can see, these kind of like indentations in our cube is being self-shadowed, and on top of that, even the shadows themselves, as you can see, they respect the geometry that's being displaced and tessellated, and it's pretty amazing. Of course, we can use it on any arbitrary geometry that we want. As you can see, I just exported 5.4 release, and you see that it gets this virtually infinite geometric detail using the nanite. And as we can see, if we go to nanite visualization and we can see the overview, you will see in the top left corner that indeed these are the triangles that are being generated on the fly. However, the geometry itself is relatively simple. Now, if I get to the tessellation and disable it, you will see immediate result that we do have this kind of the shadowing and lightning that is driven by normals. Well, as you might expect. So it looks kind of like, okay, it's not terrible. But if we enable the tessellation, you will see the immediate difference in result and how much of a dramatic effect it makes. So let's actually see how we enable it in the new project. And I will create a new project so that we can go through the motions and see how it's done. Okay, so we go to the launcher, launch the 5.4.0 preview. The Unreal Editor loads, and we go to games, let's say third person, and let's say YouTube Distillation Tutorial 5.4, and click Create, and see what we get. So after it loads, for whatever reason, the previews usually get my layout really wonky, but it's cool. I can load the layout, which is called Hexa A game development, because Ubisoft introduced the quadruple A game development. I'm introducing the Hexa game development because AAA game dev is just better. Anyway, so I go to the project settings, go to the frame rate, enable fixed frame rate, make it 60 so it doesn't lag on YouTube when you watch it on 30 FPS recording. So this is highly optional. Now, the next part, what we're going to do is we go to the plugins, start typing nanites, and we see the nanite displaced mesh. 0.
All right.
0.1. So that's cool. And we restart the editor to enable that plugin. Now, what we're going to do actually is close the editor again because we need to edit the ini file. So what we're going to do is go to our config, go to, where is it? Go to the YouTube test tutorial, go to config, go to default engine ini. Here it is. Now, we go to the render settings. Here they are. And we add the r.nanite. Allow to select. Equals 1 and r.nanite.tessellation equals 1. If you do not add these things, I tested, it doesn't really work for whatever reason. Also, we will have to rewrite this command in the editor as well, but you'll see what I mean in a second. So let's get back to our YouTube test tutorial 5.4. And
Okay.
let me load my layouts. Okay, cool. So press Ctrl B, we get to the SM chamfer cube, and let's actually say that we can create the tessellation material here. Right click, material, amazing stuff. Okay, so we double click here. Okay, pay attention. This is going to be a little bit more confusing if you're not particularly are good at materials, but worry not, I will record a fully featured tutorial later on about how to use material in Unreal Engine when 5.4 drops. But for now, just follow what you see. If you're confused, if it's too fast, it's fine. No need to sweat anything. Again, let's go to our plugins. Let's see if the nanite displaced enabled. It is enabled. Okay, so now we go to r.nanite.tessellation. If I press enter and see the output log, you'll see that for whatever reason, it's actually 0. However, we wrote that it should be 1, but you know.
Okay. Nice. I guess they fixed that.
No. Like I said, it's a little bit wonky, might be fixed later on. So what we're going to do in this material is create a world-aligned texture using the material attributes. So first things first, let's say attributes. Use material attributes, and you'll see that everything collapses and looks kind of a little bit lonely here. So what we're going to do is start typing attributes, make material attributes, connect this to here, and now we can start building our material, right? So here is some roughness, and let's say something like this. So we just can create a material instance, drag and drop it on our box here, and we will see that, yep.
All right, let's keep looking.
Our material instance works, everything looks fine. Now,
Let's go ahead and convert this material to look like that. Make material attributes.
dot tessellation. If I press enter and see the output log, you'll see that for whatever reason, it's actually 0. However, we wrote that it should be 1, but, like I said, it's a little bit wonky, might be fixed later on. So what we're going to do in this material is create a world-aligned texture using the material attributes. So first things first, let's say attributes.
Okay.
Use material attributes, and you'll see that everything collapses and looks kind of a little bit lonely here. So what we're going to do is start typing attributes, make material attributes, connect this to here, and now we can start building our material, right? So here is some roughness, and let's say something like this. So we just can create a material instance, drag and drop it on everything looks fine. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to go Pixel Bridge, right? So here it is. And I already have downloaded this layered rock cliff material. And I downloaded it in high quality. I press add. Here it is. Cool. Now, we can start drag and dropping our textures in our material editor. Now, before we begin, I want to say that we will be working with world align texture, so it's a little bit different from UV texturing. If you're accustomed to working with assets that have UVs and you apply materials to UVs, it will be a little bit different working with normals and all that kind of stuff. Again, when the 5.4 actually releases, I will record a very detailed tutorial on that topic. So for now, again, just follow along. Right, so what we're going to do is we are going to world align texture, right? And so if we just drag and drop texture here, you will see that it doesn't work. So what we want to do is we need the texture object 2D. So let's start texture object. Here it is. Here's the texture object. Here's the texture object parameter. So I will do the parameter because we will then use that in the material instance. So it's just saves us like a couple of clicks. So what we're going to do is base color triplanar, connect it to texture object 2D, get the XYZ texture in the base color, press save.
Wait, you can just do a triplanar material?
You'll
Like
immediately see that, well, if I disable this, you'll see that we do have the typical setup for world align texture. So in fact, if your geometry doesn't have UVs, it will work just fine. You will see that the textures are a little bit of a swimming through our geometry, but again, that's fine. This is almost what we want. So this covers the color. Next up, we will import the normals. And again, we need the world aligned normals. This function is different from the texture because texture is just, it doesn't get the direction of the normal, so we should use this if we want to use the triplanar normals. Again, texture object parameter, here it is. Here I will just replace it with our normals. Break it here, XYZ texture, and it goes to our normal. Now, if I press save right now, you will see that our normals will look kind of fine, but if we want to use the displacement and all that kind of stuff, I suggest we create a boolean, again, static bool parameter, call it world space, connect it to our world space, and by default, we will enable this. And immediately you will see that our geometry will now look kind of weird, but again, to fix that, we go to normals. Here, again, if you don't see this, just click.
Oh, you know what? Real quick before we do that. It would be like world position plus world position. Wait, no. Object radius times some very small number times vertex normal times our displacement value that we actually want to use. Something like this. What? That's certainly interesting. It only works on half of it. Let's actually turn off all our post-processing atmosphere stuff. If this works, by the way, we may have a better way to do the planet that completely obliviates the need for C++ at all. Because if we could just go and use the material editor to generate noise patterns and then have that happen. All right, let's continue the tutorial here.
Here, or select this node, right? Or click here on any other space and start typing normals. You'll see that the tangent space normal is enabled, but we're using world space. So
Okay. Interesting. So, no idea why that's happening. Also, this is going to be a problem. Let's try just applying the vertex normal and not. Aha. Okay, this is closer. It's still not right, but it's closer to not being wrong. It's kind of cool. Let's flip it. Certainly interesting, right? Not entirely convinced it's useful yet. Let's continue the
enable
tutorial.
it here, but disable it on the left side. Press save, and finally, we get the result that we want. So, what's next? Let's increase the roughness. By the way, I am using roughness like this because I do not have the separated texture here, because as you can see, this RGB, and it says layered rock cliff, and here it says 4K ORD. So it means occlusion, roughness, displacement. Now, we'll be using occlusion for our displacement because it's not a separated texture, it's a combined one, but for this demonstration, it doesn't really matter. So what we're going to do, I click here, press Control G here, rename it into displacement, drag and drop it here, and we'll be using the red channel to drive our displacement. And of course, we need world align texture. Connect it here, and now XYZ texture to displacement. However, if I just move it here, we will not be able to control the amounts of displacement in the material parameters. So what we're going to do is we will multiply it by our arbitrary multiplier. Let's say displacement multiplier. The fault value will be, let's say, 0.1, slider minimum negative 0.5, slider maximum 1.5. And we will actually add a parameter that I will call displacement bias. And again, slider minimum 0.5, slider maximum, let's say 1.5. Default value will be 0.1. So you will see in a second why we are doing this like that. If I go back to our material instance, you will see that we now can tweak the displacement bias multiplier. Okay, let's call it roughness. Multiplier and the bias, and it will be, well, pretty dramatic. It will have a pretty dramatic effect on our geometry. We've done all this, and you might be thinking, well, where's the effect, right? So the effect is here. We need to actually R nanite tessellation equals 1, and nothing happens. You'll be like, okay, where's the effect? Okay, so we select our geometry, press Control B, then right-click on this chamfer cube, nanite, enable. Nothing happens again because we actually forgot to get to the nanite here, and of course, enable tessellation.
But we went from it doing something to doing nothing. The fuck? Okay, so now it's at least applying to everything. Not quite. Not quite, not quite. It's cool. I'm not sure it's particularly useful, but it is cool. Let's remove the object radius multiplier here. Hey now. Let's try a different nanite object to put this on. Okay. Nanite. All right, there we go. It almost works. Let's turn this up a good amount. Does it also appear to be inverted from what it should be? So we're getting the troughs instead of the what if I flip it? There we go. There we go, baby. All right. Oh, interesting. So that was saying just now that I guess I could have just done this. It's so close. Get a little bit pointier waves. Oh god. Not like this. I have no idea why it's doing that nanite bullshit. So we'll have to figure that out. Okay, so what have we learned? It literally is just the white value. So our displacement output is just a grayscale. And it's not a grayscale in world space either. It's a grayscale in like 0 to 1 grayscale space. And the amount of displacement is dependent on like the rest of our material settings, is what it seems like. Um, we have to figure out how to get rid of the nanite flickering when we get close issue. I think this should actually be between negative zero point 0.5 and zero point 0.5 for these to composite properly. I think. All right, now let's give nanite the real test. The first real test of this nanite stuff is boosting this dramatically. I mean, that's pretty freaking cool, actually. If we can figure out how to get rid of this distance-based crap. Shit, are we about to... are we about to invalidate all the work we did on the quad tree by just realizing that we can use nanite displacement now, tessellation, and make our... Hmm. Very interesting. Actually, let's edit it here. Well, now I kind of want to revisit my original Mesh Planet materials and see if I can get them working with nanite displacement. I mean, nanite would do a better job at LOD than my quad tree implementation, almost assuredly, if I could get it working properly. I don't think you get collision with the displacement, though, is the thing. I don't think. I don't know for sure. You need a higher density nanite sphere, though. What? Excuse me? How did you change my sphere to a square? Yo, what? Alright, never mind. Delete you. Sphere. 64. 1. Centered. Accept. Enable nanite support. Save. Apply changes. Close. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, beautiful. And then times less. And we definitely need the FPM to get like bigger waves having bigger amplitudes and smaller waves having smaller amplitudes. .4 nanite with displacement geometry flickering. This is old. Hmm. Interesting. So for this to work, we'll have to figure out the nanite bullshit here. Whatever's going on, we'll have to figure that out. Obviously. By a larger frequency range as well. But it won't look right until we can link the frequency and amplitude because like a lower frequency wave should have a higher amplitude. So those should actually be calculated in one step, I guess. So float float amp equals times 2. So this is normalized between -1 and 1. minus ABS amp. Not sure ABS is a thing. I don't know. I was pretty happy with it actually. Let's turn the density down somewhat. Let's turn it down to pretty low, actually. Just wanted to see if it was happening in play mode too. All right. All right. I need to go take care of some shit. Gotta go grocery shopping and such. Let the dogs out. So I'll probably work on this a little bit later on in the afternoon. So later for now.